The author spotlight today is Keith West, and I'm so looking forward to hearing him because I don't know that much about him since I'm fairly new to the organization. So I'm going to turn it over to Keith, and then after that, Brian Foster will give us a wonderful program. Woo! Yeah.
I'm going to keep my clock up here because Matt is coming down to run over 10 minutes. My name is Keith West. My day job is at Texas Tech, which has been fun this week. Final exams were given and grades were put in. I write science fiction, fantasy, mystery, or often at the same time. I do not try to necessarily restrict myself to a particular genre. I mostly have been writing short fiction. I've got a few novels in progress, and I've got 3 collections and several shorter pieces that have been published. I have 2 collections and a novella that I need to try to get published. They're just about ready to go. I ran into an issue with my laptop, and when I took it in for service, it was not connected to Wi-Fi at all, and they had to wipe and reload the operating system, so I haven't reloaded my software. I've got all the files and such backed up on the cloud, but I haven't reloaded the rest of the software yet. It's been kind of hectic. My wife entered the prison system about a month ago, as an employee, not as an inmate. But she's not living here local, so I've been on the road a lot and such. I try to write as often as I can, which unfortunately has not been as frequently as it needs to be the last couple of months. Something about putting a keyboard up on the steering wheel just doesn't work. But like I said, I've been doing some traveling and helping her get situated and such, and we'll be following her at the end of the summer, more or less maybe. There are some discussions about possibly staying at Tech in a semi-remote capacity that need to be had the details ironed out. Do you have any questions for me? DK.
Tell about the series of short stories you wrote during Anna.
The Christmas ones?
Well, is that, I thought you did several different
I've done several different things. We had a Christmas short competition 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember the exact date. I was doing NaNoWriMo at the time, and I decided just to take a break and fiddle around and write some things I didn't normally write. And I ended up writing 12 Christmas stories in a variety of genres. There was a slice of life, there was a satire, there was a Christmas ghost story, which actually placed second in the contest. KJ said it made her cry, so mission accomplished. And then I bent the rules to the point of breaking because I wrote a 2,000-word story where I changed the viewpoint character every 500 words so that I didn't exceed the 500-word limit. And I did something different. The first 3 stories would be romance, but there was a slight discrepancy between the end of part 1 and the beginning of part 2. And the 4th story resolved the discrepancy and made the whole thing dark fantasy. That's going to be one of the collections that I'm putting together of Christmas stories. Were those the ones you had in mind? Okay.
And tell about the course that you were taking.
Which one?
Well, the one during Anna. Well,
I wasn't doing that during. Last year I was.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what WMG publishing is. I know you do, Isaiah, because you're taking a class right now, is that right? Or finish the depth. Let's talk about that at lunch.
Okay.
WMG Publishing is run by Dean Wesley Smith and Kristen Catherine Rush, and they have online writing workshops. And I'm taking a couple of those right now. In fact, I'm taking one on writing cold case mysteries, and I'm already told our speaker I want to speak to him at lunch because I have an assignment due tomorrow night. It would be perfect to give me the information I need. It's about what does police station or a police station in Large City. How do they handle cold cases is the assignment. So I'm taking that one. That one was a Kickstarter exclusive. You only have access to that one if you pledge the Kickstarter, which I've been pledging their Kickstarters to get access to these exclusive courses because they're very specific and topical. But I've been taking those for about a year, not quite a year and a half, and have learned a whole lot. I think my writing's improved some of that.
How long have Dean Wesley Smith is?
Dean Wesley Smith has been writing for, steadily publishing since the 80s. He is the editor of the Writers of the Future anthology. He wrote a lot of Star Trek back in the 90s. He was one of the go-to people when a big name writer couldn't meet a deadline to come in and ghost a book. He was the editor of the original Pulp House back in the late 80s, early 90s, and they revived that. Pulp House is a general fiction, short fiction magazine. He also publishes his own monthly fiction magazine with novels, short stories, articles, and such. He's very prolific, and he's been around. He knows a lot of the editors, a lot of the pros. He's friends with many of them, and has a lot of wisdom to impart. And he's been blogging without interruption for over 10 years, daily. Sometimes it's just, hey, we're running a Kickstarter. Sometimes it's more detailed stuff, and I follow him very, very closely. Any other questions? Yeah. What have I published? I have a collection of private eye stories set in Texas. I have a collection of time travel stories, and I have a collection of ghost stories. And 3 of those were actually collection classes that WNG ran, where at the end of the class you've got a collection. And weeks 2 through 6, you write a short story a week, and that goes into your collection. I've published some short fiction just standalone. I've had some stories published in some anthologies, some of which are still available, some have gone out of print. And I'm working on a science fiction story right now, because it was an assignment for a workshop that I knew I wasn't going to make the deadline, but I'm not going to stop the story because I'm having fun with it. So. Yes, sir.
Who are your influences? Who do you like to write?
I was told I only had 10 minutes, and I've used most of it. I started reading Ray Bradbury in about 5th grade. Bradbury led me to Henry Kuttner, who is probably my favorite. Charles Beaumont was a protege of Ray Bradbury. C.L. Moore was Kuttner's wife. She created a character called Jarell of Joyeri, I'm mispronouncing that, in Weird Tales in the 1930s. This character was the first, probably female sword and sorcery protagonist. Robert E. Howard is a huge favorite. Jack Williamson. There are a lot of them. I read a lot of the classic science fiction growing up when I was a kid because it passed muster with my father, who would monitor my reading occasionally for age-appropriate content. Mysteries, I like, of course, Dashiell Hammett. Cornell Woolrich is fantastic. Raymond Chandler. Lauren E. Eskelman. I've just recently been introduced to Nick Heron, Slow Horses. I had to read it for a workshop a few months ago, and that was an amazing book. He's a writer I'm going to be studying. I mean, the answer to the question is going to vary depending on who I think of off the top of my head, but I do read quite a bit, or I try to. I haven't gotten a lot of reading done in the last couple of years, just with work and pandemic and my wife and us moving. 1 minute, or is that a question?
Oh.
I don't know, I hold this finger up. It's not a traffic finger, so.
Where can we find your work?
Amazon. I've gone through Draft to Digital. I'm not on Kobo yet, but you can look up my name on Amazon. Texas Gumshoes is the detective collection. Redeeming the Time is the time travel collection. And I'm drawing a blank on the ghost story collection because I changed the title a couple of times. But you can link to me there. And there are also some short stories that have not been collected, or at least not yet, that are posted on Amazon. I will say I've known Jerry for longer than, I was very impressed because I met him at an Armadillo-Con back in the early 2000s, and when I ran into him at World Fantasy in San Antonio a few years ago, he actually remembered me. So,
He's a memorable guy.
yeah, I'm not sure if that was a good thing or not, but anyway, I do want to thank DK for asking me to be the featured author this month.